Hi everyone, so this is the last video of working with data. In today's lecture, we will talk about a new package known as tidyr that comes with tidywiz. So let's move forward. Following are the learning objectives of today's lecture. First of all, we will understand that what is tidyr package. Then we will see what functions are offered by tidyr. So below we have another most important package in data wrangling and transformation category of tidywiz. The package name is tidyr. So before we move on to understand what is tidyr package, first of all, we have to grasp a basic concept about what is actually a tidy data. The term tidy data refers to a common method of data storage that is applied as much as feasible throughout the tidywiz. Instead of continuously cleaning the data and changing the tools to manage messy data, it makes sure that more time is spent on data analysis and getting values from the data. What are the properties of tidy data? A tidy data is one that has the following properties, such as each column is a variable, each row is an observation, each cell is a single value. Let's try to understand about tidyr package. In R, the tidyr data cleaning library or package makes it easier to prepare clean data that can be used for analysis. In reality, it increases the capability of dplyr for pre-processing and data manipulation. So we have a list of categories in tidyr package that provides functions to help tidy up and organize data. So the first category is of pivoting. Pivoting is about changing the data's long and wide forms. The following are some of its functions. First one is spread, and the next one is gather. So let's see what is actually a spread function. Two columns are spread into multiple columns using the spread function. It facilitates the transformation of a longer format into a wider format. The syntax is as follows. You say the spread keyword, then pass the data frame, and then you pass some other parameters. So let's move to our studio to see how it works. First of all, let's say library, and I will load the tidyr package. All right. So first of all, I will say msleep, and I will read my dataset by saying read.csv. And here I will pass the file name, which is msleep.csv. And now I say head msleep. Let's run it. So let's say I want to spread my data frame according to their row and according to their orders. Now you can see here that the first species is cheetah that has the war of carni and the order of carnivore. So in order to use that, I will say first of all msleep, and let's use the pipe operator. Then I will use the spread function, and inside the spread function, I will say that spread by war and their order. And here I use the pipe operator once again, and I say head. So let's run it. All right. Now you can see here that for the first species, which is cheetah, your war is carni and the order is carnivore. And for the second species, which is owl monkey, you can see that the war is omni and the order is of primates. As you can see here that the war is omni and the order is of primates. So that is how you can spread multiple columns. Now let's get back to slides. Next, we have gather function. The gather function combines several columns from your dataset into key value pairs. Basically, it changes a wide data set into longer format. The syntax is as follows. You use the keyword of gather, then you pass the data frame, then key value pairs, and then some parameters. Now let's implement. So first of all, let's say head and sleep. All right. Now here I will say take this data frame and I will use the pipe operator. And here I will use the gather function. And I will say, let's say the new column which I want to define have the name of weight info. And the next column will be of figure. And this will contain the information of these two columns, brain weight and body weight. So I will say take the brain weight column until the body weight column. All right, let's use the pipe operator, and here I will say head. Let's run it. So you can see here that your column brain weight and body weight have been replaced by these columns. So the second species has the brain weight of 0.01, and once the observations of brain weight are finished, the body weight observations will be started. So this is how you can convert a long format of a data frame into a wide format. You could have said the same thing by saying, but first, let's see the data frame. All right, so this time I will copy the same statement, but I will say, rather than saying weight info, I will say sleep info, figure, and take the columns from sleep total until awake. All right, so you can see here that those columns have been converted into observations. So this is how you can use the gather function. Now let's move back to slides. Next, we have nesting category. Nesting is a summarizing procedure that transforms group data into a single row in a nested data frame. Together with other summaries that analyze entire data sets, it is helpful. The following functions are a part of it. The first one is nest, and the second one is unnest. So let's see the first one. Nesting is a helpful function that generates a list of data frames with each nested variable in them. The syntax is quite simple. You just use the nest keyword, pass the data frame, and some parameters. Let's move to our studio, where first let's say head and sleep. All right, so for instance, I say take this data frame and I use the pipe operator, and here I use the nest function. And inside this nest function, I say that create a new column of rows that contains the nesting of var. And I use the pipe operator and head function. You can see that a table of 6 by 11 has been created because for each of the var in var column, a nested data frame has been created. Now let's move back to slides. Next, we have nNest function. The nested data frame is essentially flattened out again into ordinary columns with the help of this function. The syntax is quite simple. Just say the unnest keyword, pass the data frame, and some parameters. Let's implement this in our studio. I say take the sleep data frame, and here I use the pipe operator, and I say that unnest what I have just nested, which is my var column. Let's write it inside a head function. Now you can see here that the var column has been unnested, which was nested here with the help of nest function. So that is how the nesting function works. Now let's move back to slides. Next, we have splitting. This category is used for splitting and combining character columns. It performs the following functions, such as separate and unite. So first, let's see the separate function. This function, as its name implies, helps in dividing or separating a single column into several columns. It converts longer data to a wider format. The syntax is as follows. Just write the separate keyword, pass the data frame, and some parameters. Let's use it. Now, first of all, let's say I create a data frame by saying df and data.frame. And inside this data frame, I say x equals 2, and I use the combine function. Let's say I have different types of var, such as var Garni, var Herbie, and var Insecti. Let's say head df. All right. It's time to use the separate function. First of all, I say take this data frame and use the pipoperator and use the separate function. And I want to separate this x variable, and I want the new column names to be like, first of all, let's say type, and the second one should be like var. All right, so you can see here that this single column has been separated into two columns. Now let's move back to slides. Next, we have unite function. The convenience function unite separates in direct opposition to the separate function. It facilitates the merging of two or more columns into one. The syntax is as follows. Just type the unite keyword, then pass the data frame and some parameters. Now let's move to RStudio. First of all, I will say head and sleep. Now I will say take the msleep data frame, and then I will use the pipoperator, and here I will use the unite function. All right, I will say that the name of the new column should be var order, and this should take the column of var and order. Let's run it. All right, so you can see here that the columns have been united: carni, carnivora, omni, primates. Next, we have the category of missing values in tidyr package. This category of tidyr package is used to deal with the missing values that are present in a data frame. It includes the following functions. First one is fill. Second one is drop NA. Next, we have replace NA. So this function makes the use of preceding entry to fill in the missing values in the specified columns. The syntax is quite simple. Just use the fill keyword, pass the data frame and the direction. Well, first of all, you might have seen here that your columns, such as conservation, contains the missing values. So I will say take this msleep data frame, and I will use the pipoperator, and here I will use the fill function, and now I will pass the column, which is conservation. All right, so you can see here that the missing values have been filled, and there are no missing values in the column of conservation now. Next, we have drop NA. This function removes rows from a data frame that have missing values. The syntax is to use the drop NA keyword, then pass the data frame and the variables. Let's move to RStudio. Now, in order to use this function, I will pass the data frame as usual, and then I will say drop NA. And inside this function, if I just pass a variable name, such as sleep total, then it will only drop the missing values from this variable. But if I leave it empty, then it will drop all of the missing values from the dataset. But for the sake of learning, we will just drop the values from sleep total. All right. You can now see here that sleep total does not have any missing values. Next, we have the function of replace any. This function replaces the missing values in a data frame. The syntax is quite simple. Just type the replace any keyword past the data frame and then write the value you want to replace with. Let's do it. Now, in order to use this function, first of all, let's go above, and you can see here that the column of conservation contains the no values. So I will say take the mSleep data frame, and here I will use the replace any keyword, and I will say create a list, and inside this list, I will say take the column of conservation, and the new value should be unknown. Let's run it. So you can see here that the no values have been replaced with this word. So that is how you can also replace the no values in other columns as well. Now let's get back to slides. So this is the end of today's lecture. I have got some homework for you. Your homework now is to use the pivoting functions from .dir package, use the nesting functions from .dir package, and also use the splitting functions from .dir package. In the last, you will use the functions to deal with the missing values. You can access the link of the dataset by clicking here. Now good luck, see you next time.